Hey everybody, welcome to the New Fly Fisher, our Facebook and YouTube live event. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we have somebody really special. We have Ty Halleck, who's a professional guide in Casper, Wyoming, and he's also an incredible artist. I think you're going to love seeing his artwork. So without further ado, let's get the show going.
Ooh, that's a nice sized fish.
I will catch these all day.
That is what you're in for on this episode.
Well, everybody, I'd like you to meet Ty Halleck, and of course, everyone knows Mark, but hey, Ty, how are things in beautiful Casper?
Good. Wasn't super windy here today, so it was pretty nice out, about 50 degrees, and it's pretty nice and sunny, so.
Yeah, and people are still out there fishing, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, it's been really busy, for sure.
Well, Ty, I think everyone would be really fascinated to know, and I'm going to turn it over to Mark here, because I met you a long, long time ago. I mean, we're talking, I think I met you at one of the Orvis Guide Rendezvous initially, and then I did a show out there and I met you.
Yeah.
I got a fly box from you at that time.
And yeah, probably 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And then and I was really blown away because you were just starting to do the coolers and the Yeti coolers. And then fast forward and we ended up doing a show with the Ugly Bug. And Mark here gets the opportunity to go down the river with you. So, Mark, why don't you talk about your trip? I'll let you take over.
Yeah, you know, Ty and I have been fortunate enough to fish together for the last couple of years, and we've actually become pretty good friends. Not only because he's a fantastic guide in the Casper, Wyoming region, but also because of his connection with the natural environment, the entire North Platte system, and you know, his artwork. So, you know, we've really hit it off. We fish very well together. I'm proud to call Ty a friend, and I'm really glad that we're able to talk to you today, Ty, about the guiding that you do out of the Ugly Bug and the artwork that you do when you're not on the river.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. It's nice to be semi face to face with people. So
that's the way it goes this year, right now.
Yeah,
2020 is an absolute shit show, so this is the best we can do.
It's crazy.
Ty, I just wanted to do, if you could have put an Orvis sign behind you, that would have been a little bit better. There's not enough Orvis on you there.
Yeah, I don't have a big banner like Addy, you know, where I'm rowing a boat. I'm working on it.
I'm sure you are. So, you know, I think one of the best things, and I don't know what your opinion is, Mark, but why don't we play a video about your adventure on the North Platte River, going out with the Ugly Bug. And I think in this case, you're getting ready to do some hopper fishing because you're there in late August.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to start with some nymphing. So why don't we start with that and you guys can talk about it. Okay.
Sounds great.
All right, here we go.
It's late August and we're just about perfect for the beginning of hopper season in Wyoming. Thought of by many to be the most wonderful time of the year. Guiding us today is Ty Halleck, local artist and year-round fly fishing guide. Hoppers will start a little later in the day so we get warmed up, nymphing for rainbows, cutthroat, and cutbows.
We're going to be nymph fishing a little bit here today in Wyoming. We can use 3 flies.
Okay.
So we're running about 4 feet to our lead.
Yep.
Or it's actually 10.
Yep.
And today I'm running number 1.
Okay.
They come in different sizes. We're going to try a little caddis because I've seen a bunch of caddis this morning. Mm-hmm. Kind of a generic mayfly. And then our bottom fly is this bigger trico.
Okay.
So when I'm teaching people on this river to nymph fish, I usually say, you know, you guys have seen river runs through it where they're up here doing all this. We don't do that here because we've got weight and 3 flies. So basically, I tell people it's just like talking on an old school telephone. You know, thumb in the ear, pause, and hang up the phone. It's just here, hello, and hang up. That hello in your back cast is super important because it's getting everything to kind of flatten out behind you and goes forward.
With 3 flies, you've got to do that because it's a mess for a tangle, right?
Yes, it's like, especially here, the wind blows a lot, and if you're stopping your rod tip up high, one of those 3 flies is going to hit your rod tip. You hear the clunk of death, and then you got to, start over with your cast. So it's just here, pause, forward, hard. And you want to come forward hard all the way with that thumb down. So then I usually tell them to do 3 good strips off the reel. We don't have to cast 25, 35 feet here. It's I usually tell people it's a rod length away from your rod tip. So we're only casting 10 to 20 feet. So when you bring it up, you want to keep this side tight. And when you go forward, you go loose. So it's tight, loose, tight, loose.
Gotcha.
Tight, loose. You want to do it in 2 or 3 casts.
So no false casts.
Yep. So that's going to be kind of our distance out. And how that indicator is kind of making a wake right there. The most important part of this river is your mend, especially with all this free floating moss today. If you're dragging that indicator around, you're just going to pick up moss. So what I tell people is you want to keep that rod nice and still and just snap that tip over. Now, a good mend is you want to actually hop that indicator just a little bit, but not a ton. What a lot of beginners do, I call them zombie arms. They go back and forth, and that just drags that indicator right into the boat. Yep, there he is.
Fish.
Yep, let him run. Perfect.
Oh, nice fish. Nice one to start the day. Wonder which fly it took. Took the caddis.
What the?
Nope.
Middle one.
Mayfly.
And really, this is kind of like our average fish. Like, they run hard, especially this time of year. Boom, just like that. So our average fish right here, 16, 17 inches. He did eat the middle one. Male. You can tell it's a male because they have this little kite down here and the extended front face, a standard rainbow trout. And then when I release them, I usually put them back in the water, kind of let them on their own terms. Like I don't chuck them over. I let them make sure they're really swimming well. And then I just drop that net out from below them.
Away you go.
Cool, man.
First fish of the day.
Yeah. Sweet.
First fish of the day that was actually literally 100 yards from the boat launch. Like the fishing there is fantastic, Ty.
Yeah, this year was a little tougher, but it was still. We had some pretty good days.
We did. Now, what's interesting is you immediately started me with a 3 fly rig. And for those who have not fished a 3 fly rig, easy for me to say, it's counterintuitive to what the perfect fly fishing situation is, where you want to have tight loops, you want to be able to position that cast perfectly. What you want to do is you want to open those loops, and it's almost like a lob, isn't it?
Yeah, especially like early in the spring or even kind of later in the summer when the flows are up, we're usually using a little bit more weight. So it's kind of like letting everything a lot of people struggle because they're not used to slowing down that much when they're casting and letting all that stuff unfold behind them and then kind of flop it over. I mean, it's not like super tight. You're not trying to get a good presentation. I always say if it's wet, it's going to work. Just leave it in. So here it's mending. Like that's the big thing because, we're not, running these typical, seams and choppy water. And I mean, as you remember, it's a lot of just flat water. And like I take guys all the time that are like, why are we fishing this? There's nothing here. Well, there's a little trough right there, and that's where these fish back up. And
but that's the key, right? Is that you fish these stretches so much, where every boulder is, you know where every little dip is. That was the first spot we were at that first day, and we hiked up the river to this drop off, which was literally a 6-inch drop from the bar down 6 inches, and that's where all those fish were. They were nosed right up to it. And I mean, we lit it up right there for 45 minutes. It was fantastic.
I wish every day was that easy, but some days it is, some days it's not.
So, Ty, one of the things I remember when we've been chatting is, you've been telling us, hey, you got to come early in the season, because we've been out there twice now and fished with the ugly bug, both times August, I think September, which is great. I mean, good hoppers and everything, but it's a different river if we were to come in June or July, right? Can you talk about the seasons of the North Platte?
So these fish kind of start getting into their spawning, even all the way November, December, January, February, March, like they're kind of building up. We have a couple different strains that kind of spawn in different types of the year. And, in the springs, they do a management thing here where they do a big flushing flow in the spring. So sometime in March, they'll take, your 500 cubic feet per second river, bump it up to 5,000. And then every hour they bump it down 100 until you get back down to 500. Well, what that creates is this big flush going down the middle, and it does two things: cleans off the spawning beds, takes all that sediment and displaces it onto the side. So you won't get. We don't have a lot of big cut banks and stuff, and the lower river in the early spring is usually pretty off color, just because we have a couple of tributaries and stuff. But after that flushing flow, it takes quite a while to everything to kind of settle down. But soon as it kind of starts settling down, and like right even in the middle of that flush, fishing really starts to pick up, because those fish it turns them on and they start eating and they're ready to spawn, and their beds are clean, so the males and the females are in there moving around, trying to get their beds ready. And I mean, it's crazy. There's some of these really shallow, fast corners you can go around. It looks like a fish hatchery. There's thousands of fish just cruising around, and I mean, it's amazing to see.
Wow.
And what are the hatches like at that time of year?
Midges, a lot of midges. We throw a lot of rockworms, annelids. That's probably kind of the two main key ones, and then eggs in the spring. A lot of rockworms. Like it's like I call it the shiny quarter, because like they just have to pick it up. They have to eat it every time they see it. Rockworms it looks like a red hook. Like you hand somebody that and they're like, dude, that's a red hook. What are we doing with that? It's like, it's an annelid, it'll work. And sometimes they'll eat like a, size 8, and sometimes they'll eat it in a 22. It's just kind of depending on what's going on in the river, what part of the, water quality, because we do in the spring, we get some storms that move in and, blow a bunch of sediment back in. It's usually not a big problem, but probably in the spring until June, we probably run into like kind of a weird, off charge of water, probably maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the spring, which isn't bad. And it's a tailwater, it's all regulated. So like, it's pretty nice. We don't have to sit around and wait for the water to come back down and clean up. Especially at high flows, it doesn't take much time at all to clean it up. So,
right.
So just for the sake of a lot of people that might not know, when you're talking about the worms, because it's related to the midges, we're talking chronomids, right? The stillwater guys they call them chronomids.
Yep.
And I know the river guys have a tendency to call them bloodworms, mudworms, all types of different names, but different sizes, different colors. The key is they are very small generally.
Yep.
Smaller size, and the fish just are chowing down on them because they're just coming down the river, just like they are in a lake.
Yep.
In the spring, huge amount, and it's easy food.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard some biologists say usually rivers where annelids are a main source of food, it's usually not a healthy river system. But here, like, big San Juans work all the time too, just because, there's just so much food in this river. And that's what a lot of people, Mark kind of missed out on this last year just because we had a good hopper year. But there's years like where we'll have caddis just bouncing everywhere on the surface. You won't see any fish up eating them. There's so much food moving at their face. They don't have to, look up. I tell clients all the time, would you rather eat a hamburger on a treadmill or on your couch? It's the same thing. Like they want to sit still. They just
I eat them in both places, but that's just me.
Yeah, I know. I probably should do it on a treadmill, but oh well.
So what part of the river are you talking about here for the spring? Are you talking about the you're not talking up at the Miracle Mile, but you're talking down in the ditch and stuff like that, right?
You can do the mile in the spring. Sometimes they're actually running that water higher up at the mile in the spring because that's like 40 miles away. So they're usually trying to kind of create that, backfill of water to get it ready to go down the river into Nebraska. So they're usually in the spring running the mile a little bit higher, and that tends to sometimes make it kind of difficult up there. You got to run pretty long, pretty heavy just to get down into that fast water.
Yeah.
So it's usually that upper 8 miles from Gray Reef Reservoir down to the first public takeout, which is Lusby.
Right.
Sometimes especially when it's super busy in the spring, the Ugly Bug has private access, so we'll actually move down a little bit, and a lot of times we'll float down to Government Bridge, which is about 4 river miles away from Lusby. So it just kind of breaks it up a little bit, but sometimes that lower stuff is pretty off color for quite a while.
Right. So after we've moved through the spring, we're starting to warm things up into the summertime. Where are you fishing and what are you fishing?
I mean, we spread out everywhere. Like June this year, the mile was great. June this year, the reef wasn't that great. The water was still a little kind of off color. We had high water early. But normally, usually right after that May, kind of the middle of May, we all kind of start spreading out a little bit more, floating down through town. We have about 90, 95 miles of river that we can fish from the mile almost all the way into Glen Rock. So it's a long section that we can definitely fish. And as the summer kind of goes on and our moss builds up, that off color water that we had all spring kind of keeps the moss down lower. It's not as bad down low. So we usually July, August, September, we're usually floating Government Bridge or even right through town and even kind of farther down than that too. It's just kind of depending on where the fish are kind of moving, what the bugs are doing. Sometimes down low, you can get some good hopper dropper stuff. This year it was so hot that our hoppers kind of just vanished about July. We had 2 good weeks and then it was done.
Yeah.
Which was sad because there was massive amounts of hoppers out, and we really had bluebird skies and no rain from end of May all the way until almost September. So it was so dry out here, but our water was high. It was hot because they were dropping Pathfinder almost a foot a day, just flushing all that hot water through. And our fish were a little sluggish this summer, but everybody's saying that the water behind us is looking good. They're already getting snow in Colorado and stuff. So that's where all of our water comes from. So,
but you also have to realize that you say that the fishing was slow this summer because of certain conditions. I was there. When did we fish?
It was end of July.
End of July, early
August.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it was that first part of August.
And it was, from my perspective, it was absolutely lights out. Yeah, we didn't get fish on every hopper that we threw.
That's because you've never fished this in the spring.
Well, that's what you keep telling me, man. Right? Come back in the spring. But every time I fish in
fall, though,
every time I fish late summer or fall, it's the best hopper fishing I've ever had. Yeah. I mean, even this year, we decided that we were not, when you and I got to fish together for the show this year, that we decided that we were going to go unicorn hunting. Same with Forrest, right? We decided, we're not going to throw hoppers. We're going to go fishing for big fish. And that river has never disappointed me. No matter the amount of moss, no matter the amount of pressure, no matter the amount of cattle that's walking through the river, that fishery is fantastic.
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled. I'm saying bad days, in the heat of summer, we're still landing anywhere from 7 to 25 fish, which on most rivers is insane. And we're sitting there man, I only landed 15 today. It kind of sucks. They're all 7. Oh yeah, poor guy. Yeah. I mean, this river really makes your guide look good most of the time. So.
Oh wow.
It's an amazing fishery, and Game and Fish has done pretty good job of trying to manage it. They're doing a really good job, Bureau of Rec, trying to coordinate like what they do with the water. When I first started guiding, like you may walk into the river one day, it's flowing 3,000. The next day show up, it's 500. Like you never really knew what kind of was going on. And, in the last 5 to 6 years, you've really seen kind of everything smooth out, and they do a lot better job of communicating what's going to happen and why. And this fishery is pretty good. And, the amount of pressure we've got on it the last couple of years has really increased, but there's still some pretty good fish out there. So
Fantastic.
So just want to jump in here. Holly asked a question back when we were talking about the spring fishing and the bloodworms. What are some of the patterns you recommend if she were to come there to tie?
Your normal San Juan, that'll work fine. We can tie a thing called a rockworm. It's just basically rubber D-rib, and it just kind of puts that groove on that hook. That's basically all it is, and just different sizes.
Do you guys use squirmy worms at all?
Yeah, I don't really use them a ton, just because they're kind of a couple different steps to get them on there, and I'm kind of do the simple kind of San Juan stuff. I've kind of started using a squirmy here and there. They fall apart, and you're pulling over and you're re-rigging them. They're just not super sturdy.
Yeah,
there's some guys that really live by them. I'm just like, I'll throw them every once in a while, but it's not like my go-to pattern in the spring is definitely that rockworm and San Juan. Like, throw a leech in the middle. They love to eat leeches, especially when the water's a little off color.
Yeah.
So what color do you like, Ty, for those Sanjays?
It's crazy. Like I've thrown everything from, we have a purple one, we got a hot pink one. Early in the year, there's like this 9 to 10 day section where there's like this goofy, like olive water, like olive rockworm that just kills it for like 9 days, and then it's done. Like I've tried that thing like later in the fall, nothing. It's like this one little kind of lucky week in the spring sometimes that they really eat that olive color one. Sometimes they'll eat an 8. Sometimes it's a 22. It's like all kind of depending.
Right.
And sometimes like we're running 2 or 3 different ones. Like, we have 6 flies in the water with 2 guys in the boat, and we'll have, sometimes 4 rockworms on, all different sizes, all different colors.
So Mark, probably we should ask about the summer and fall fishing, because I know I personally love the hopper fishing in the fall. But why don't you tell us about the summer fishing there, Ty?
So summer fishing here is a little harder. We're usually still nymphing. We have usually like that June time, we'll get a lot of yellow sallies coming around. This year was a pretty good yellow sally year. We'll get some pale morning duns, some little PMDs start coming off. And that's kind of a cool mix. Those 2 bugs you can usually, between those 2 patterns, you can usually get some fish figured out. Like even when it's a little tough fishing, 80, 90 degrees outside. Early morning's probably your best bet for dry flies that time of year. We will get some tricos early in the morning, get some PMD stuff. So then as that summer kind of moves on, the trico hatch is pretty long here, and the fish, I think, kind of start weaning themselves out of it. And then we start getting into some big stone flies. We have a nocturnal, non-flying adult. Like I've only seen probably 7 or 8 live stone flies on the water.
Like a mutant.
Yeah.
It sounds like the mutant stonefly, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you kick over a rock, like especially below Government Bridge, like you'll kick over a rock with like 15, 20 of these massive stoneflies on them. So
hey, Ty, is that the stonefly that we found coming when we launched at Government and pulled out at wherever we pulled out? There was one that ended up on the boat. Was that the same bug?
Yeah, and like usually their wings aren't nice and crisp like on a normal stonefly. They're kind of all ratty and they just kind of skitter across the top. But this year Pat's rubber legs was amazing. Like I've never caught as many fish for as long on this river on that Pat's rubber leg. Like this year it worked awesome. Like all the way like pretty much into September, which is kind of unheard of. And then as we get like later into the fall, then we start getting our blue wings, like our kind of, traditional caddis hatches. We get a fall caddis, we get some blue wings. This year with the bump in the river, because they did a little bit of dam maintenance starting is probably into September. We went from 500 CFS to like 2,200 CFS. And that just kind of threw a wrinkle in everything this fall. It was just kind of different. Some days they would eat really good. Some days they wouldn't really eat all that well. This year, if you were lucky enough to come out with an overcast day, the overcast was the key. Like if you got clouds in the sky, it was going to be a great day. But bluebird skies, those fish can see a lot better. They can see the boat coming. They kind of move off a little bit deeper. It a little bit tougher to catch them this fall. And then, there's always options for streamers, especially in the midsummer. Like there's always this kind of magical couple weeks, first part of August, where the water's up. It's not quite getting too hot yet. And those fish just start mowing. Like when you were here this year, like we had some good streamer days and not so good streamer days. But it was really good for about 2 weeks, and then you can just see that it didn't steadily dropped off. It just dropped off.
But that's the beautiful thing about that river is that you can throw streamers all season and dance with an absolute giant, which happened to us this year too, right?
Awesome.
Remember that big rainbow?
Mm-hmm.
That was a beautiful. That was one of the biggest rainbow trout I've ever caught in Wyoming, and it was big. I called it Fatty McButterpants.
Yep. You're the big girl. Yeah. And this year, even though it was fishing harder, I caught bigger brown trout than I've ever caught. Like I've been doing this for 13 years and like I caught several that were over 25 inches this year.
Wow.
Which is not normal. Like, you may, there's some dudes that catch like, 1 or 2 a year if you're lucky that big. But I mean, I don't know. I've probably caught like close to 10 this year that were that big.
On streamers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then a really good thing is in the fall, especially this year, like late in the fall, the streamer fishing got pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of small fish in the river, like a lot of 8 to 10 inch fish, and a lot of the big fish were chasing them and eating them. So it was a good streamer fall this year.
Great.
But be prepared when you come out in the fall to go streamer fishing. You may be dealing with 60-mile-an-hour winds too.
That's fly fishing though.
Yeah. I like normally this time of year, we're doing like 8-mile floats, like 8 to 10 mile usually. I did one a couple weeks, about a month ago where the wind was blowing 60. We did almost 19 miles. We did it way under 8 hours. It was like 6.5. It's like, just holding on to those oars, just trying to slow down a little bit.
That's
crazy.
Cool fishing though, when you're doing that type of streamer fishing, looking for those active fish, the aggressive ones that'll come out and play. And when they hit, I love that commitment.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Some pretty good violent eats. It's pretty fun.
Well, I guess the key is that Casper, Wyoming, the area there has got some really great fishing. We're talking about the North Platte. There's a lot of water around you also to go to. And you're based out of the Ugly Bug.
Yep.
Right. I think it's a good juncture because we're about the halfway mark. One of the other reasons that I wanted to have you on tonight, besides talking about the North Platte, which is a great river, and I have to actually, just before I forget, because it's a great little tangent, you're talking about the size of fish. The first time I was on the North Platte was about 15 years ago. And I was walking, waiting, and I was with Bill Spicer, and he was down with the guide downriver a little bit from me, and I was walking and not really paying attention. and I almost stepped on this fish. And it wasn't long, it was thick and really wide. And it took off, and I was like, whoa. And then I went back to the guy and I said, I think I scared a big carp. And he goes, there's no carp up here. That was a rainbow. I go, really? He goes, yeah. And it was like in a foot of water. You know how it's kind of dirty. It was just sitting there. And that was a big fish. So it wasn't length, but it was a buffalo, total buffalo. I mean, that thing had been chowing down on all the food groups you were just talking about, and probably a lot of those little 6 to 8 inch brown trout and rainbows.
Yeah.
So that's how he got to be that size. But anyways, let's talk about your artwork, because that was.
Hold on, Colin. Before we move on to the artwork, can I throw one question out here? Delta Sportsman's asking, what rod weight do you prefer when you're tossing streamers? I think you and I were tossing a 7, and I think I was throwing a 10 or 11 foot 7 with Forrest. Was I not? I don't remember.
Yeah. Usually in my boat, I'm throwing the H3 7 weight. I usually go with the D just because you get wind too, and that D really pops through that wind pretty good. 7 weight F is awesome too, but I kind of like that D just to have a little bit more backbone. But 7 weight's usually kind of the way to go. I mean, you can put it down with a 6 weight, but you really feel that difference, casting that heavy line,
and often 2 streamers at the same time.
Yeah, we'll throw tandem a lot, big articulated stuff. I usually don't throw massive streamers like those, I'll get guys down from Montana like, yeah, man, I'm going to throw a 9 inch streamer all day. It's like, all right, your buddy's going to catch a lot more on like a 4 inch little guy.
Or 1.5 inch Krelex too, right?
Yeah. Bob's minnow was good this year. Thin mint was good. I used a lot of vanilla buggers. Rusty trombone's always really good on this river. Mm-hmm. I used a lot of different olive stuff this year. I kind of, Peanut Envy and kind of the Zoo Cougar, some of those other ones. We usually throw like an integrated sink line. I don't like to do the sink tip with clients because it puts that weird pivot area in it. I kind of like that integrated line. That Orvis Pro line is awesome. Scientific Angler line is really good too. It just lays down really nice and easy. And again, like even streamer fishing, I'm not having everybody throw 35, 45 feet. It's, pretty close quarters. Our water this year was a little cleaner than it normally is just because they ran it pretty high. Mm-hmm. But, we're still throwing, 25, maybe 30, 35 feet.
Right.
Well, you actually mentioned 2 of my favorite flies, by the way, the Kelly Galp designed Zoo Cougar. I love that fly. Mm-hmm. Really, in that Peanut Envy, I've got some big brook trout, rainbows. I've caught all the food groups. I mean, that's just a wonderful fly.
Yeah.
You really don't want to hit yourself in the back of the head with one of those puppies in a high wind at full speed, 10 foot, 7 weight. I like a 6 weight myself, but if I go to a 10 footer, which for high winds, like when I went down to Patagonia, I got to tell you, a 10 footer in a 6 or a 7, but a 7 would make a lot more sense. That's the way I would go. Definitely, especially in the fall when you got those.
I always wear a hood when you're.
Well, there you go.
Because I was in the boat with you. That's why. You might want to put some Teflon or.
Well, I looked clean when it went by.
Or a hard hat.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your artwork. Let's get your artwork, Ty, because that's, you're a great guide. You're one of the best guides I know. And I got to say, Mark, there's someone's art. Get your fly box, Mark. This not me.
This hat is the hat that never saw the light of day. This is the Orvis Guide Rendezvous 2020 hat.
The top
hat. It's a collector's item for sure, and I'm proud to wear it. This is the first time I've worn it because I do not want to wear it. But Ty's art is fantastic, and Ty's medium is Sharpies. And if you can believe it, this fly box was tied by Ty for me because I'm such a brook trout lover.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, you can see that, Mark.
Yeah, and he he does all his work with Sharpies, if you can believe it.
There's another version of a brook trout.
100% talent, 100% talent, and so fantastically amazing.
It's advanced coloring. That's what my daughter's called.
Well, it's artwork, buddy. No matter what you want to call it, it's artwork. It's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So, I think one of the cool things here, before we talk more about your artwork, we've got a little video we want to show everybody that Mark, you shot in his studio, in his house, right? Because Ty's kind of like he's the big kahuna now in the art world. There's a lot of people that we have all seen their artwork out there, but you're an emerging artist, even though you've been doing it for a few years. But I've seen your stuff more and more. MFC. I just saw it. Like I saw a picture online of a pair of Sims waders, and you had done a brown trout on them. So why don't we'll talk about how you got into this time, but let's watch your video first.
Yep.
That'll tell a little bit about how and why you do what you do, which is absolutely fantastic. So just everyone stand by. Here you go.
So the reason I started doing art the way I do now is I've always enjoyed like painting, but Blake and I were actually at an outdoor show in Denver, and there was like hardly anybody there. So I just drew, there were some Sharpies sitting there, so I ripped the stickers off a Cliff box and just started drawing. And when I got those 2 boxes done, the guys on both sides of the booth bought them from me. So from there, I was just like, well, I might be onto something. So I just, when I got back home, I started drawing on guides, coolers, some of my buddies' fly boxes, just kind of started drawing on fly boxes. I really like this media because it's like nobody else really does it, and I'm trying to get as much detail that I possibly can with a Sharpie that most people would get like with oil-based paints or acrylic or pencil drawings, colored pencils, like those some other media that I've seen that they use. So it's just something a little different, something a little unique. Most people can't believe it's Sharpie, so that's kind of why I do it. So that was kind of the big thing. Those Yeti coolers were kind of the first stepping stone, I guess, because it's a really big canvas to work on. And so, and you know, you can't really stick a sticker on those lids very well. So we're like, well, maybe I'll draw on them, make it look cool, make it look different, because everybody, you know, had a white Yeti cooler, so white or tan. And so it's just kind of mark them up a little bit, make them different, you know, kind of maybe a talking point in your drift boat or whatever. So that's kind of how that all started.
So why Sharpie?
Sharpie because not a lot of people do it, and it's kind of, Sharpies come in hundreds and hundreds of colors. The trick is to kind of figure out how they all blend together. Like the blacks, I always start with blacks and then just kind of bleed everything out from there. So I start from the dark to the light. And if you've done like any type of acrylic paint or something, most artists start really light and just add darkness and then add the highlights. Well, this is kind of completely opposite, so it's just something a little different. Sharpies are always coming out in different colors. So that's kind of the challenge. Like if I find a color I really enjoy and something that I use a lot, sometimes they discontinue them, so they're really hard to find. So sometimes I have to change what colors I use to make colors blend out, or, you know, like a skin tone. Like there's just so many tones that you can use. So the funniest thing is, like, I'll be literally sitting at an art show or something drawing with a Sharpie. They walk by and they're like, "Oh, those are pretty." I was like, "Yeah, it's all done with Sharpie." And then they're like, "No, it's not." Like, I'm literally sitting here right now drawing with one. And it's kind of cool to, like, suck people in and have them, like, there's people like, I know nothing about fish, but those are beautiful. Or, you know, guys that know a lot about fish are like, "Dude, how did you get that blue color on that brown trout? That looks identical. It's awesome." So he's getting old enough though now that I'd like to do a lot more drawing, a lot less rowing, but I will probably always guide. I like the interaction with clients. I really like when they ask me to do their artwork for them, and they're like, "Man, that's so cool. Now I can have it, you know, show all my friends and buddies that, like, my guide actually drew my fish for me." Kind of unique, kind of cool.
Unique and cool. Absolutely. I mean, you look at companies like Gray's Taxidermy, and Advanced Taxidermy here in Canada, who do graphite mounts, where you can take a photograph and measurements and supply those companies with accurate photography, and they can create a mock version of the fish that you released, that allows those fish to keep swimming. But this is a whole new level, Ty. I mean, I've watched you create artwork for clients for Christmas presents and for birthdays that are period pieces of like world-class fish that people have caught that they've taken a photograph of. And I'm hard pressed to tell the difference between the photograph and the actual drawing that you've done. You create art. It's amazing. Like, look at that. That's fantastic.
Well, thanks. And I keep trying to kind of evolve and get better, and, like, try to get more detail. And, you know, I'm using some different techniques and stuff that I'm trying to figure out to kind of, like, make the blending a little easier, a little quicker. It's just kind of been a process. You know, some of the stuff in the video and stuff kind of shows some of my older works. Like, every year I think they get a little bit better and a little bit better. I really, like, the best thing about my main job being a guide is, you know, I'll take somebody out. Like, I took a guy from Tennessee this year who was, like, never been out west. We just happened to get to the mile, and that's actually the guy right there.
Wow. Look at, like, you can't tell the difference hardly, man.
So he was just fishing in Jackson for a week, Jackson, Wyoming, catching cutthroats. The biggest cutthroat out of 5 days with, like, 10 guys fishing was, like, 16 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Our first hour up there, I think we landed, like, a 20-inch cutthroat. And then he caught, like, a 19-inch brown trout. And then he caught his first rainbow was probably, like, 18 or 19 inches. And he's like, "Well, can you draw that one for me?" And I was like, "Well, I could draw that one for you, but you'll probably catch a bigger one." So then that one was kind of at the end of the day, and that one's pretty close to 23.
Wow.
I mean, it's pretty cool, because, like, I have guys that come with me, and, you know, you can see, like, a fiberglass mount on the wall or something, and you could tell the story about it. And, you know, if you have, like, a piece of artwork that I've done, you know, a lot of those ones, like, clients that have actually been in my boat, have been like, "Yeah, that fish I caught in July in Casper, and the guy that rode me actually drew that with Sharpies," if you can believe it. So it's kind of something different, little different, that probably not many guides can do. So
can I ask you a proprietary question?
Sure.
If I was to catch a fish that was draw worthy,
Mhm.
right, and you draw that fish, okay, and I want to put it on my Yeti cooler, or I want to put it on a mug, or I want to make a T-shirt of it,
Yep.
right? Is it transferable to all those mediums, or is it something that you just draw in Sharpie, and that's what you get?
So I've got a really good company in Boise that does my digital reprints for me. And I also have another company in Boise that does the Yeti wraps. So I used to draw directly on the Yeti cooler itself, but sun and those coolers degas so bad because they're big chunks of plastic. So I found this company that does basically military grade adhesive stickers, and they wrap the whole cooler, and they don't last forever, but like the lid on mine is about 3 years old now, and it's just barely starting to fade. And that's like 3 years of being outside every day. Like
Right.
I never, most people don't leave their $600 cooler sitting outside 350,
Yeah.
So, and the bottom wrap on mine is, I think, 6 years old now, or maybe even 7 years old, and it looks brand new. So if they're not always out in the sun, they're going to last a long time. But usually if you just leave them, the lid kit, out in the sun it takes it about 3 years before it fades. But the cool thing with that is if it fades or, peels up or whatever, you can just hop on the website, give me a call, send me an email or whatever, and they can just send you a brand new one, and they just ship it in a box and you put it right on there.
That's perfect. So it lives forever.
This is a sticker here, isn't it, Ty?
That one, it is now. Yeah. I made it into a sticker. I don't make
I've got this one. That's mine. That box, and that's a sticker.
Yeah, I've made that. That one's got a few stickers made of it.
Yeah. It's a really cool idea. And then let's go on to your other stuff, because I'll show everybody the picture, all the stuff you're on now.
Right. So the Cliff boxes down on the bottom there, that's actually something new I've just kind of started doing. I found a local company that has a UV printer, and it's printed right onto those Cliff boxes. Those ones aren't hand drawn, so they're way cheaper, and they're pretty tough. Like I've tried to scrape them off and use sandpaper and stuff to them, and they stick pretty good. Montana Fly Company, they have some foam boxes. They've got their really nice poly box. They've also got some waterproof ones too. It's kind of the same process. It's all UV printed. It's on there pretty good.
Very cool. You have to tell the story about this one, though. The brown trout with the cooler.
Yeah, I just we caught a brown trout, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Kind of has the same color as my cooler. So I just kind of held it up and took a picture of my cooler in the background. So
that's great. That's really cool. And then the other thing is that you don't just do fish. Here's a moose. You got a turkey here.
yeah,
The turkey was awesome. I have to tell you, I saw the turkey yesterday for the first time. That's fantastic.
thank you. Well, that was my first shot at it. I've never drawn a turkey before, so drawn a ton of birds, but that's kind of when I started in artwork. I used to draw a ton of ducks, little tiny birds, like birds at the bird feeder. I used to draw those all the time. I really love drawing birds. I just, I'm a fly fishing guide, so I'm around fish a lot more now. But the big game stuff's fun. I've done, African kudu, some weird kind of foreign species. So yeah, it's kind of involving big antelope. I've just done some big game stuff, which is a nice break.
I just love the fact that people can catch a fish, take a fantastic photograph of it, send it to you, and have a memento that can hang over the fireplace or what have you for a lifetime, and have other people have the ability to go and catch that fish again. It's perfect, man.
And you don't have to dust it.
Yeah, totally.
Big old fiberglass mount up there. Those things collect dirt like crazy.
Well, and it certainly makes your fly box. I know when I've got two of yours, and I throw them in wherever I am. I could be in Labrador, I could be down in upstate New York, and I pull that puppy out and I put it in the boat, or I just pull it out of my backpack, and they're like, "Hey, where'd you get that? That is so cool! Look at that brown trout." So for anybody that's interested out there, they can reach you. Look at your website, tyoutdoors.com. And what's really cool inside of your website, I noticed, is you got all the different types of mediums you got. But, as you talked about, somebody can send you a photo, right?
Yep.
And say,
Yeah.
"Can you
I mean, you don't have to fish with me to catch a big fish and have me draw it. Like I did a guy that caught like a 33-inch brown trout down in Argentina, sea run brown last year. And I drew it to scale and, got his hands in there. That's kind of my big thing now is drawing hands, which like people who've done artwork.
Hard.
Yeah. People tell you that do artwork, hands are really hard. Well, I have 4 colors to use. So that makes it even harder. And it's Sharpie because once you draw it, it's there. Like there's no erasing. There's no paint for it. So
That was the part I cut out of the video, by the way, is when you said, when I make a mistake, I make a mistake.
Yep.
There's no going back. It's not like paint where you just go, okay, I'll start again here. I just go look around and paint on top of that.
I'm notorious bad speller, and that's the only mistake that I've actually had to use a chemical to get off artwork to put it back on. My spelling was so bad. But fish and stuff I usually don't mess up. So
well, I'll just put up a couple more just because I want to know about them. This one, Ty, with the bee or the wasp sitting on top of the fish's head.
So he's a client of mine that comes and fishes with me a lot. That's not even with me. He was somewhere else, and he asked his guide, he's like, hey man, take a picture of this fish. So he like literally in his chair just turned around, showed it to the camera, and they took the picture. They didn't even know the bee was on there. So then Mike contacts me. He's like, hey man, can you put this on a box for my guide? And so I, drew the fish with the bee on it. Kind of funny.
Very cool. And then I have to ask about this one.
Giant tiger trout caught down near Sinclair, Wyoming.
I've caught tiger trout. I've never seen one that coloration.
Yeah,
very unique on the head.
Yeah, in the fall they get that crazy color down there. It's nuts. They kind of in the fall they start acting more like a brown trout, and they start getting kind of spawny, even though they're not spawning. They still adapt that color, and good clean water down there, and they get some cool colors for sure on them.
Yeah, and I didn't show this before, but you just don't do trout. You're doing bass, muskie, redfish. You're doing a whole bunch of saltwater fish, right? Basically, you do virtually anything for somebody, right?
Yep, tarpon, bonefish, permit. There's very few species I haven't drawn already. And the really good thing is, like, I think they're getting better and better and better. So
I agree.
I would agree totally.
I see my stuff from like 6-7 years ago, and I was like, oh man, somebody bought that thing?
That's okay. It's like me too. I look at my shows in the past. I go, oh, that was terrible.
I casted that, man.
But that's how it is when you're trying to perfect your art. You're always, looking back, going, ooh, trying to the next step, right? Like you said, you're looking for that new
next level,
that new detail that you see that you can put into a fish's, the coloration. I love the way the guy was talking about the blue hues. One thing about brown trout, there's so many hues of brown trout.
Yeah, and they're all different. Like some of them are pretty chromy, and some of them are almost pumpkin orange. Like I love drawing brown trout. Those are probably my favorite ones to draw, just because.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're big, gnarly. They have blue in them. Like what fish has like that cool blue color in it?
They're double-plated cheeks, like fantastic, right? Yeah.
Big old gonzo dork nose on them when they're spawning, and they're just really and cool. Well, like one of the big questions people always ask me is, well, how long does that take you? Like just kind of your average 18-inch catch and release, one can take me anywhere from 8 to 15 hours, just kind of depending. But, fly boxes are quite a bit quicker. They're like usually 3 to 6 hours. But, some of them that, I'm really trying to match the colors and stuff on them, I really take my time. And, I say it takes me 15 hours to do, but I've also drawn probably close to 80 of them now. So, I mean, it's a lot of experience, a lot of messing around with different techniques, trying different, ways of moving color around, different markers. I mean, I'm still using probably 99% Sharpie, but I've started to use a little bit of acrylic marker, and those ones right there are some of my really old ones. Those are like 2013 or something like that. So
They're almost like impressionistic works, where
Yeah.
your newer ones are a lot more realistic, right?
yeah, and that's kind of like I've seen that evolve. Like
Look at that. Look at the difference.
so adding the water, trying to get the water highlights on them, just trying to get everything more dialed in and technical, and counting the gill spots, and so
You really see the evolution.
yeah, it's been kind of fun to see.
Yeah. Well, look at that to that, right?
That one's a couple years old too.
Yeah, 16. When I was saying 13, 16, and then 19.
Yep.
What a difference.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive. And I think if I could say what a lot of people should know about is the fact that you can get these stickers. So if I own one of these fly boxes, right, I can just go to your website because they're coming on this side, right?
Yep.
And they're protected actually because you got the edge here.
Yep. And some of the newer ones, we're actually getting them UV printed directly on the plastic, so there's no sticker involved whatsoever.
By the way, you want to see the meat and potatoes? Here.
Yeah.
Look at that, baby. Here, I'll go to the single cell. How's that for streamers?
I like it.
Yeah.
Game changers and zoo cougars.
There's a lot of chickens in here. But I don't throw the big crazy ones. Yeah, I think 6 inches is about as big as I got. But lots of action and has the ability to draw a fish in. That's what is key to me. But at least that's my experience. Everyone's got everybody about streamers, just like dry flies and everything else. Everyone's got their opinion, but the key is if somebody wants one for Christmas or for all those people who
Christmas.
Good luck getting one for Christmas.
well,
Next year, 2021, I can get Christmas.
the time of Christmas because they won't get the artwork done, but thanks to our friends at FedEx, you might get the stickers there in time, right?
Yeah, kind of running into some sticker issues too. Just
Can't get them enough.
yeah, getting supplies from China and stuff. The sticker game has been a challenge here in the last 2 months.
COVID's messed everything up, man.
It's been crazy to try to get stickers printed. Like it's
Okay, so we'll talk then about Boxing Day. People got money in their pocket from Christmas and they want to spend it.
Yep.
They can order stuff, right?
Yeah. Ugly Bug's got a lot of stuff on their website too, like the MFC boxes. A lot of your local shops will have those MFC boxes. Yeah.
I've seen them out in New York State, and I think I saw some down in Vermont when I was there last time.
Yeah, I had a buddy that was in Florida a few months ago, and he sent me a picture. He's like, dude, is this your box? I was like, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
You're famous. You're a big famous guy. You're not just the cool guy from Casper anymore.
Regionally popular at best.
All right. So speaking of regionally popular, being a guide out of the Ugly Bug for as long as you have and understanding the North Platte as well as you do, be it Fremont County, all the tributaries, the mile, the ditch, all that stuff. How's next year looking for you?
It's looking good. Our water report is pretty good. A little worried that they had to drop Pathfinder 30 feet this year to do dam maintenance, but we usually getting pretty good spring storms, which really are going to help fill up Pathfinder. Fish counts are there, man. This fall we caught so many small fish. Like we know we have fish here.
Yeah.
And those 7-8 inch fish this year, they're going to be right at that, probably getting pretty close to 15-16 here mid spring. So yeah, it's looking like a good year. Yeah, we'll just kind of wait and see. It is the Platte, so it's always usually pretty good. So
well, that's the beautiful thing about it, right? Is that all the dams are bottom draw tailwaters,
Yep.
right? So the water stays cold all year long, and no matter how hot it is in the desert, come August, you've got fishable water and the hopper season's fantastic because that's all I can talk about right now
Yeah.
until I come and visit you in the spring.
Yeah.
But it is a fantastic fishery. It really is.
We also guide over in Thermopolis, Wyoming too. Wetting of the waters down.
Yep.
That one turned into they've had some water issues the last few years, just really high, not a lot of recruitment. But this year it's I mean, it's not super back, but it's pretty good. I mean,
Austin Hopped and I fished Wetting of the Waters down to Thermop this summer, and it was lights out fantastic. I caught a 22-inch brown trout on 22 mayfly nymph of some kind, and it was lights out. I mean, we had a fantastic day. The fishery up there is come back big time. Anybody that says that stretch is dead they're misinformed, because it was fantastic.
Yeah, and that fishery is a little bit different over there. They get a lot more dry fly fishing than we get. A lot quicker water, usually a lot higher. They have kind of those everlasting moss beds over there, so those fish are kind of up off the bottom a little bit more than on our river. So they're eating dry flies and streamers a little bit more over there. It is kind of a stretch over there. We usually try to book a couple days together over there, so you're not driving, the longest 90 miles in America. That drive from Shoshone to Casper is the longest 90 miles you'll ever be on. If I only had a week to live, I'd drive that road as much as I could, because it'd be the longest week of your life. I mean, it is dead flat, crazy. There's nothing out there. The antelope, you can look at antelope. That's about it.
But the rainbow at the end of the deal is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Ty, it's been great to have you on tonight's interview. Thank you very much.
For having me, guys. It was awesome.
And for anybody that's out there that's interested in getting in contact with Ty, Ugly Bug Fly Shop for guiding, or even for your artwork, and of course, tyoutdoors.com for your artwork. Have a look, folks. This stuff is incredible. And Delta Sportsman is asking about lodging accommodations. I think it's called the Crazy Rainbow, isn't it?
Yep. We got a
ranch. That's a great
lodge. We got a lodge. We got a cabin. If that's booked, we're only 26 miles away from Casper. A lot of guys stay in hotels and just drive out in the morning. Sometimes we'll pick you up in town, just kind of depending what we want to do that day or what they want to do too. So,
well, it's beautiful. You're on there. You're a lucky man. Really.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know, Mark, just to close off here, next week we've got Fly Tire Tim Flagler from Tightline Productions coming.
Absolutely.
And we'll be talking about his videos that he does, as fly tying is just screaming up right now. Everyone's focused on that. I know you're busy with your Sharpies, but some people are tying flies. You don't do that stuff, do you?
I usually start tying in about February.
Out of necessity, right?
And pretty much rockworms. They're easy, so I can get those done. And midges. A lot of midges.
Have you seen that pattern called Reese's Pieces?
I've seen that one.
Yeah, they like using that up on the Bow River.
Mm-hmm.
The same reason. I'd never seen it before, but it looks like an interesting fly. I don't know if it's easy to tie, but I'm like you. I like easy.
Yeah.
Patterns.
Yeah.
Squirmy worms can be really difficult. And then the worst part, it gets hot out, they start coming apart.
Yeah. Or stick to the package or fling off in the air. Yeah.
Well, I learned a very valuable lesson about the squirmy worms is that leaving them in a clear box on the boat seat
dashboard,
they open it up and they're little pools of red and pink. That was painful lesson.
At least you can get your hook back.
Yeah.
That's about it. Anyways, on that note, Ty, it was great talking to you. Hope you have a great holiday season with your family, and we look forward to both of us seeing you next year on the Platte River, hopefully in Casper.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Next time. Merry Christmas.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for watching.